Welcome back to the second episode of To the Root, the podcast that unpacks the truth about women's health and healing from the inside out. Today, we're talking about the miseducation of women, how by not being taught about our hormones when we're young can impact our health later in life, from missed signs to misdiagnosis, and breaking down why it matters and what we can do about it. Okay, let's get into it. So, before we get started, two really quick disclaimers. Number one, I'm not a medical professional and this is not medical advice. And number two, as Q-Tip said, occasionally I curse to get my point across. So if you have young kids around you, I would advise that you wear headphones, or if curse words offend you, feel free to exit left right about now. Okay, let's go. So when I think back to when I was in secondary school in the early 90s, and I reflect on the education that we were given to prepare us for life and to go out into the world and to function within society and to be successful. And I really and truly sit down and think, did they prepare us for adult life? And the answer is no. So I attended the local comp. Nothing wrong with the local comp whatsoever. I, generally speaking, had quite a good time at school. I wasn't academic in the slightest, but generally speaking, I enjoyed myself. But I think about the curriculum and the things that we had to learn and the things that we place so much emphasis on. For example, algebra. I remember stressing over learning algebra and the equations and all of these mathematical things that I've never had to use in my adult life. And come to think of it, I don't know anyone in my personal or professional life who's ever had to use algebra. Maybe I don't move in those circles, but for me, it was pointless. And then it's not just things such as your English, maths, and science, it's also other subjects as well. So I really like history, but did it benefit me as a woman to learn about how many wives Henry VIII had? No, not really. Great in a pub quiz and all that, but it didn't benefit me whatsoever. It didn't equip me for life. And speaking to so many women who have hormonal issues, who have problems with fibroids, and the common theme that runs through the conversations that we have is that they don't know about certain things. They don't know about certain hormones, how the hormones work, what impacts the hormones, how they can help themselves. And these are basic things that I believe that every woman should know. And I'm speaking from my own experience because I didn't know until I was well into my 30s, to be honest, probably in my late 30s, that I truly began to understand what's happening within my body. So we've got women in their 30s, 40s, and dare I say, even in their 50s, who don't know their arse from their elbow when it comes to their bodies, but they can tell you every single medication that's supposed to heal them. And this is a real shame because we live within our bodies our whole life. So from cradle to grave, we're in our bodies. But for the majority of that time, we have no idea what's going on inside it, especially as a woman when it comes to hormones. And I guess some people would assume maybe this should have been taught in sex education. Yes, we did have sex education. I'm not going to go into what we were actually taught in that class because my mum might listen to this podcast. But let's just say that class did exactly what it says on the tin. It was sex education. We briefly touched on the 28-day cycle, but we certainly did not talk about hormones in any depth and the things that are happening in your body and how you can actually recognize when things are out of alignment at all. So the class of 1995 walked out of that school ignorant. And it wasn't until I was in my late 30s, I would say, that I began to learn about what was happening within my body. And the most surprising thing, actually, was also learning that there were things that I could have recognized early on if I had that education. So there are things that I could do to help myself. I didn't need to have an operation or I didn't need to take medication. I didn't need to do drastic things to try and heal myself, that it was well within my grasp to actually do. All that was missing was the education. And I know some people will think it's not the teacher's responsibility to teach you about your body, that's your parents' role. And you know what? I would say I'm 50-50 on that. Simply because if you have parents that unfortunately weren't educated in terms of how hormones actually work within your body and how healing works, holistic healing works, and their parents weren't taught, and their parents weren't taught, then what you have is generations of women that are repeating the same cycle and the same mistakes over and over again. And it takes for somebody to come along and to break the cycle and say, hey, this is madness. There has to be a reason why these things are happening. And we have to learn about what's happening to us. There is that saying that ignorance is bliss, and I was happily ignorant, if I'm honest with you. I didn't want to have to learn about what was happening in my body at all. It was convenient for me to be like, okay, well, the doctor says this, or the doctor suggests that. They know more than I do, they know better than I do, until things started to go wrong. So if you're taking lots of medication or if you're having operations and things are not going away, especially in terms of fibroids, then you have to question the information that you're receiving. As I've mentioned before, I really want to be able to help women, especially younger women, because I feel that, you live within your body your whole entire life. It just makes sense that you should fully understand how it functions. And I'm not saying that you need to become like a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon or anything like that, but you need to understand the basics. I mean, if you've got a whole group of women just running around and nobody knows what's going on inside of their bodies, I mean, I don't know. Is it deliberate? Is it? I don't know. Because it just seems really convenient to me that so many women will be unaware of what's happening within inside their bodies. They get to perimenopause or they start having problems when it comes to fertility or they have fibroids. And then a whole surge of women will want to have operations or will need to go on to really harsh medications, and they never actually heal. They just stay within that system of constantly taking medication, having operations that never heal anything. Is that deliberate? I don't know. We need to understand the basics of hormones and what's happening within our body and how we can help ourselves. So, grab paper, grab a pen, and I'm going to give you some information that will help you so you can go away and research further. Okay, first things first. If you didn't know this, there are three naturally occurring estrogens within the body. And I didn't know this until I was in my late 30s. So I guarantee that there are many women out there that also do not know this information. So write this down. So the first one is estradiol, and that's classed as E2. And that's produced during a woman's reproductive years. And then you have estrone, and that's classed as E1. And that's the primary estrogen that you produce after menopause. And then you also have the final and third one, and that is estriol, and that's E3. And that occurs during pregnancy and it's produced by the placenta. So for women who have fibroids and estrogen dominance, I would presume that the estrogen that you're dealing with at the moment is estradiol, and that's E2. So there are two key hormones within a female's body, and that's estrogen and progesterone. So progesterone is produced by the ovaries, and it's essential basically for a healthy pregnancy. But it also has other benefits as well. So it has a calming effect. It helps you to sleep. It also improves your mood and quite key as well, especially when we get to perimenopause or menopause, progesterone actually prevents bone loss in women. So that's really important. So, in terms of the relationship that these two key hormones have, I like to think of it as a dance because it's easier to remember. So, if you can visualize a 28-day chart, in the first 14 days, it's all about estrogen. She is running the show, she is the star of the show. And then we get to day 14, which is just after ovulation, and her energy starts to wane. And then progesterone will tap in and be like, okay, I'm going to take over now. And that is supposed to rise until the end of your cycle. However, for women who have fibroids, this tends not to happen. So, what you'll find is that if you have fibroids and estrogen dominance, is that after the 14 days, your estrogen is still riding high and your levels of progesterone haven't really moved at all. And this is what was happening to me, is that my estrogen was really, really high and the progesterone was coming in really late. And the result of that is that you will have extremely heavy periods. But going back to education, what would have been good is to actually know about this in school. So if you know that these are the hormones that are rising and falling within your body during your 28-day cycle, naturally, the next question is going to be, well, if I start experiencing these kinds of symptoms, then how would I increase my progesterone? At least that's what my question would be. So I'm going to tell you today, these are the things that helped me, and I'm hoping that they will also help you. So there are certain vitamins such as B6 that's found to be beneficial in producing progesterone. So for me, reducing stress was a major factor in helping to boost my progesterone levels. It was really key. In fact, it's probably one of the most important things. The second thing is getting enough sleep. And obviously, when you have hormone imbalance, that's quite difficult. And depending on what stage of life you're at as well, sleep can be difficult, but you have to have good sleep hygiene and prioritize it. And I know that when I was working in the corporate world, I really just didn't. I was just running. I don't even know how I was surviving, to be honest with you. I feel like I was just on autopilot and it was showing in my body, basically. And then the final thing that I did was changing my diet, but I don't mean restricting myself. I actually mean adding foods in. And this is where I like to think that I'm a little bit different in terms of the standard advice that's given to women of color about fibroids and how they should heal from fibroids. It's always about what you should take out and what you shouldn't eat and all of this kind of stuff. And although that stuff is true, there is a big section missing, and the section that they're missing is the vitamins. So, research has shown that B6 is really important in producing progesterone, or helping to boost it at least. So, what I did was I introduced walnuts into my diet. So, I eat walnuts not because I love them, they're okay, but it's not my favorite thing. I eat them because of the B6 content and the healthy fats. And this is helping me to boost my progesterone so that my hormones are a little bit more balanced. So, in conjunction with eating certain foods that will help to reduce the estrogen dominance and just get everything moving within my body, and also eating foods that have the right vitamins in them to help boost the progesterone production. I hope this is making sense. If you don't like walnuts, that's cool because there's so many other things that you can eat. There's chickpeas, potatoes, bananas, and then there's other things such as magnesium-rich foods will also help to boost progesterone. Your dark chocolate, your avocados, your fish, leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, which I love, black beans. So the thing that I say to women when they come to me and they want to find out about how they can actually heal from the root, yes, you will have to take certain foods out of your diet. And I'm talking about the ultra processed foods. Those will need to go or at least be reduced significantly. And you will need to clean up your diet in terms of your gut health. But what is also very, very important is about the foods that you're adding back in, and you need to understand why. So, this is why I failed many, many times. I will just be honest with you because I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to eat healthy and I'm going to have kale and I'm going to have, oily fish and things like that. And then I would just stop and I'd be like, oh God, I can't be bothered anymore. But once I actually educated myself on, right, I actually need the leafy greens because it helps to reduce the estrogen dominance. Or I actually need the sprouts in my salad because it helps with the estrogen dominance and I want to balance my hormones. Or I need the dark chocolate because of the magnesium, and that's going to help during my menstrual cycle, then it all changed for me. Because when you learn how food can be your medicine and why you need it and how it benefits you, it's a different ball game. You're not just eating for eating's sake, you're eating for health. I know a lot of women struggle when it comes to getting hormone testing, and it's such a shame that this actually happens. You feel like you have to beg for hormone tests. And a lot of times when I actually asked for this, I was just dismissed that I didn't actually need it. And unfortunately, or fortunately, whichever way you want to look at it, I had to pay to have private tests and bring those to my doctor. And then something was actually done. So, for any woman that is having a problem with hormone testing and your doctors are refusing to give you the test that you actually need, then I will leave a link below to Thriver. And that's the company that I have used to actually help me to find out about my vitamin D levels and my hormone levels. And it's been so beneficial, especially when you have fibroids, just to know where you stand in terms of your hormones. I think one of the most debilitating things about fibroids is the pain and the heavy bleeding. Often we're told to just medicate it away in terms of take ibuprofen and just be quiet and just kind of go away. But in terms of the bleeding, there really isn't much you can do apart from taking contraception. And that's a whole nother episode, which I will get into. But there are natural herbs that you can take. There is a herb called yarrow, and I want to tell you just a little bit about yarrow, and you can go and do your own research as well. So, yarrow was used during the Second World War and probably during the First World War as well. And it was used on soldiers to help stem bleeding from injuries. But it also works really, really well with women who have heavy bleeding from fibroids. So I have a tea that can help to stem the flow of blood slightly. And I will link it below for anybody who's interested, because the knock on effect of losing so much blood is anemia. And then you just end up in a vicious cycle of having no energy, lots of pain, and it just goes on and on and on and on. So you have to be able to help yourself. And there are things that you can do naturally right now that can help you. So if you need any more information about how you can heal yourself naturally, take a look at my website. There's lots of free articles on there, or download the Fibroid Starter Pack and you can start healing today. Thank you for joining me on this episode, and until next time, take care.